Welcome to Beyond the Scream, where horror gets under your skin and sleep is seriously overrated. Tonight we're diving into A Nightmare on Elm Street, the film that made us all terrified to close our eyes. From surreal scares and my personal favourite Final Girl, we're slicing into the film that changed horror forever. So grab a coffee, keep the lights on, and whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Hello, welcome to Beyond the Scream, episode 3. Myself, Robert Taylor, and co-host Emma Arneal, and tonight we are discussing Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, directed by Wes Craven, of which, Emma, you're a massive fan of the film.
Huge fan.
The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet. But something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
We just see cuts happen.
What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
Tina! What's the coroner got to say? He's in the jar and puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
So, in A Nightmare on Elm Street, we meet a group of high school friends, Nancy, Glenn, Tina and Rod, who start having the same terrifying dream about a burned man with a glove full of knives. When Tina is brutally murdered in her sleep, her boyfriend Rod is blamed, but Nancy quickly realises something much worse is going on. As more of her friends die, Nancy discovers that the killer, Freddy Krueger, was a child murderer burned alive by their parents years ago. Now he's back, attacking their kids when they're most vulnerable inside their dreams. With no one believing her, Nancy has to take matters into her own hands, figuring out how to pull Freddy into the real world and stop him before she's next.
So the 1980s was another jump in horror, wasn't it, really?
Yes.
It started off in the 1960s, where horror cinema changed from the Gothics and they've gone into modern day suburban settings that, you know, with Psycho and Rosemary's Baby, you know, where a satanic cult can be living in the apartment next to you. So horror was kind of being brought into people's own homes, which hadn't really happened before. It had been very distant, it had been Gothic, it had been fairy tale. So there was a shift there in the 60s, and then in the 70s we had an explosion of exploitation film. Films like Last House on the Left, directed by Wes Craven, I Spit in Your Grave, really kind of grim, exploitative films that I don't think, they're not films that I particularly enjoy, but I think they definitely have to be given credit for paving the way for the way in which explicit gore started to appear on screen, by the 1980s we were looking at films that had a lot more slasher aesthetics to it, and obviously started with Friday the 13th, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and in 1984 Wes Craven comes to the screen again with Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm wondering, you know, how you first encountered it. What was it? What is it that still makes it so important for you in horror cinema, and what would you like to say about the film?
So, the fact that I love this film now, I kind of see it as a bit of a badge of honour to myself, because I first encountered this film, didn't see it, but a friend of mine, so we're talking maybe 7, 8, had seen it. She had older sisters, and had been allowed to see it, or maybe hadn't been allowed to see it, and her sisters had showed her it. So she had told me all about it, and the thing that stuck with me the most was she told me about a hand that came through a boy's bed and pulled him into the mattress and then spat him back out as blood. And for some reason, that chilled my heart to the point where I just thought, I'm not even safe in my bed, which is obviously a massive theme of Nightmare.
But that was related to you. That was relayed to you, rather.
Yeah.
That wasn't,
So
you didn't see this. This was.
I didn't,
so you were
see it,
forced to imagine
which is always so much worse.
Yes. Yeah.
In your little brain, isn't it? So I knew that Freddie was burned, and I knew he was a bad man. So much to the point that I was really scared of this. And although I'm kind of thinking back to our very first episode when I'm talking about you being really scared about the Lost Boys as well, but I was really, really scared of this, to the point where I remember being on a walk with my granny and telling her I was scared of a man. Now, can you imagine, as a grandparent, your grandchild says to you, I'm scared of a man. And she's kind of was like, oh, okay, and is he real?
Gone into investigation mode immediately.
Yes. She's like, oh dear God.
That's a good grandparent right there. You know?
And she was like, is he real or imaginary? And I'd said, he's in a film, and I think the absolute relief must have just been
the colour returned to her face.
God. I'm not going to have to deal with something here. And I said to her, he's a man in a film and he's a bad man and he murders people or something to that effect. And, sweet Gran had just been like, well, you don't have to worry about anything then if he's in a film because it's not real. And I was like, well, that's like zero bloody reassurance for me, because actually...
the confines of reality.
Yeah, he's the boogeyman. He'll come and get me.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a song about him. There's a nursery rhyme about him.
Yes.
And it used to get sung in playground at our primary school.
Yes.
And it kind of goes into that urban legend kind of territory, doesn't it? Of,
It does, especially as a child, if you're of that age as well, 8, 9, 10. I mean, it's young, and it allows, and playgrounds are great for urban legends and for stories to be spread, and that's what happens. So then you've got your very own song that accompanies it, and absolutely, yeah. It's,
and I was so worried it was like an invitation. If I sang this song,
yes.
To the point where if I was ever on my own and it came into my head, having to physically shake it out my head, because I'm like, if I have this song in my head, that's an invitation. I'm calling him to me.
Wow.
Which maybe sounds a bit dramatic for an 8-year-old.
No, for an 8-year-old, I think. Yeah, because you conjure up that stuff, and I think we always talked about my traumatic experiences with the Woman in Black, and again, that's sort of reality. That's the blurring of the line of that it's not real. It's within the TV box or. Cinema, it's tape and thing. Yeah, it's media, it's medium. It's but it's still, it can be real at that age. You have no. I think your brain is still developing to a point where you can't really, straighten those lines and know what's possible and what's not possible. So I think it's a very early age to be exposed to that. Did you see it then? At
No,
that age?
no, I didn't, and I didn't see. I actually saw the second and third before I saw the first, because the second and third for some reason felt safer. I don't know why.
They're
they just felt
playful,
they're playful. Yeah. It was like that was my gateway to Freddie. He was a diluted Freddie in the second and third one.
Very much so, yeah.
And I couldn't even tell you when I saw the very first one, but when I did, I remember just feeling so bloody proud of myself that I got through it. And actually, this film is so fucking good. Like, it is terrifying, and it still will terrify me now. There's still images in that film that haunt.
Without a doubt, yeah. There's some great. I mean, the high school scene with the body bag,
Tina in the bag,
yeah, and the trail of blood behind her, and going down the hallway of the school corridor, and yeah, I mean that's the first one that comes to my head. I think
that's the one that comes to mind for most people. Certainly when I've been listening to other podcasts on this, because I feel like I consume with Nightmare on Elm Street. I just want to know as much as I can, and I love to hear other people's opinions about it. But that is definitely always spoken about. And you know, when you do the kind of talking heads top 100 scary moments and things like that, that is a big that's a huge scare for people, and it does leave a lasting impression. I still find Glenn's death scary. Just this idea that you hear him, it's like he has a realisation that everything that Nancy was saying is coming true.
It is now 12 midnight, and this is station KRGR leaving the air.
He gets sucked down into that mattress, and you hear him say something like "no," and it's horrible, and then he is just tomato juiced back out. That
it's very, it's visceral. It's you know, it's over the top even. You know, it's you know, beyond it, but it's quite disturbing, because you don't see the physicality of it, you know, and anything, once he's sucked into that mattress, anything could be going on, and nothing comes up other than liquid. Yeah, you know.
And
so it's,
I love the
pretty grim.
I love the bit where his mum discovers him, and then Lieutenant Thompson turns up and speaks to his deputy, or whoever it is, who is also in Scream, by the way. He is he's the policeman in Scream. Not Dewey. Not bumbling Dewey. The other one, but he's there. So again, there's that kind of meta element of Scream, where he's harking back to his earlier works. And John Saxon says something along the lines of, "What's the coroner saying about it?" And he's like, "He's not saying anything. He's been puking in the toilet since he saw it."
That's pretty. That's
like
a great line. Actually. Really good.
It's a really good line. Yeah. And then a policeman puts a bucket under the ceiling, so
to catch it, and it's like it's just that still and Tina's death is just I think that was cut here, well, certainly in the UK, for a long time.
Oh really?
Yeah,
just a bit too much.
We now have it. I think the current releases have put everything back in. I think only seconds, but there I think there's a few. I think the slashes to abdomen from just below the breasts are slightly lessened in the earlier releases of the UK version. I think America had a problem with that scene as well. I think they had to. I don't think Wes Craven got all his shots that
everything
he wanted,
and
it had to get taken, had to review it quite a lot, I think, if I'm right in saying that. I'm sure I've read that somewhere. But yes, it's really, I think Tina's death is probably the one that stays with me from the other, what, 2, 3 deaths in the film. How many?
So there
What's
is...
the body count?
There is... Okay, right, let's do this together then. There is Tina, Rod, Glenn.
Yes. And then
it's Nancy's mum.
Nancy's
Spoiler
mum,
alert.
Yes. If you haven't seen the film,
we've
just spoiled it for you.
Yeah.
We're not even going to say switch this off and watch the film first, because we just told you the ending. Yeah, so I think Tina's one's the one that sticks for me. I think Tina's quite she's a wild child as well.
Yeah.
Out of the three, she's the one that's, she, rock and roll. She's sexually active. She's, it's Tina's. It almost felt. I don't know if I'm, because I think Scream taps into this. You've got to have sex before you die.
Yeah.
It's almost like.
Well, it really plays into that trope, doesn't it?
Yeah,
If you are the promiscuous girl,
yeah.
Well, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Literally and
and
metaphorically.
And she is and it's almost she's punished for her deeds, and that's I find the whole thing on the ceiling and just being dragged around. I think that's amazing. You look at that today; it's still amazing.
It's still still holds up, and actually I just listened for about the 500th time to the Faculty of Horrors episode on Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay. Guys, you have to go and listen to this. It's a fantastic podcast. And Andrea Subicetti, I hope I'm saying that right, the way she describes it is Tina's death still fucks. And it absolutely does. That was just that was basically her sentence in describing it, and I was like, oh my god, it does. Mm-hmm. She is desperately fighting for her life. Yeah. She does not want to die. She is
absolutely, and it's just that final release, of life. Mm-hmm. She falls to the bed from the ceiling,
and then there's the gush
of blood.
And it's the way it's shot is just so clever as well, because it is just ever so slightly, if you notice, it is just ever so slightly over Rod's shoulder, so it's not quite his point of view.
No, it's from behind him.
But we are seeing that he cannot do anything.
No.
And when he realises what's going on, she's thrashing about the bed, mm-hmm. and he is kind of flailing to put the lamp on. Mm-hmm. You just see
Tina's used as a weapon as well. She hits Rod on the head.
Yeah, that's right. She gets spun around.
Well, she doesn't hit him. It's Freddy who's doing it. But it's yeah. I mean, it's all very violent. It's
so
and
violent.
It's within 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the film.
And I think the fact that she knows this is going to happen to her. She knows. She has Glenn and Nancy there because she's so scared. Yeah. She wakes up from that dream to no reassurance from her mum, really. She's told, cut your nails or stop that kind of dreaming.
Mum's with a boyfriend or something.
Yeah, who is the grossest looking guy.
Johnny Depp's agent, apparently.
Oh, really?
is the man who plays the one night boyfriend, or I'm assuming, her mum seems quite her mum's alcoholic and sleeps around, I think that's quite clearly.
They're obviously a very fractured kind of family unit.
I think all are as well. I think even Glenn's mum and dad.
Oh, they're awful.
They are pretty bad, and they fail to get the message to him.
Yeah.
In terms of when Nancy's frantically trying to contact Glenn towards the end of the film, all the parents fail in that film.
Yeah.
Glenn's parents, they're slightly nicer.
He's got the more functional kind of setup, I guess. They appear
to function more, and they've got maybe that sort of idyllic, parenting, but they're still really inept, and they don't know what's going on. So Tina's death is probably the one that sticks with me and will. I think, like yourself, I didn't see Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, actually, no. I think Nightmare on Elm Street was the first one I saw. But I didn't see it until very late. I mean, I didn't even know about it really. It was a VHS cover on a shelf that I would see. I would never be allowed to take it down and take it to the counter. You know,
It was provocative.
clearly an 18. It's the poster art that we've just looked at tonight. We've had a look at the original UK quad poster tonight, and it's the same poster, that sort of blue tones and the orange writing of Nightmare on Elm Street and Nancy's face and I think the glove and the claw just kind of over her. So it was quite startling artwork, and that always kind of captured my. But I didn't know anything about Freddy. There was such a pop culture phenomenon with Freddy Krueger, but I didn't. All that bypassed me, and I think I was about 11 or 12, so still young. And I was allowed to use my pocket money to buy the VHS, and I remember the fear.
And did you buy it or did you rent it?
I bought it. I don't know why that came about. Why, you know,
that's like the coolest thing.
You know, but I must have been told, yeah, if you want to buy it, you know, you're of age now, kind of thing.
You traumatise yourself, but you're not sleeping in beside me tonight.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I think that's how it went, and I remember watching it kind of on my own. There was people in another room, and being quite. I think I was more scared of the fact it was an 18. I think it's possibly the first 18 that I saw.
Really?
Or, you know, beyond what was on television and things, but the first sort of 18 movie that I.
That's a
saw.
milestone. That's a proper horror milestone.
And I remember
isn't
feeling, you know, because it felt definitely more dangerous to watch that stuff than maybe the Hammer horror stuff that I'd grown up on and the safer things. So I remember that sort of fear. How did it? Yeah, I think it was. I remember stopping it, pausing it, and going to tell my dad what I'd just seen. Like, so Tina's definitely. Oh, I've just seen this girl. She's pulled up on the ceiling, and she's had her. You know, her stomach cut open and things like that. And, you know, my dad's cooking away. So, yeah, that sounds really good. You know, I remember stopping and starting it. I think I was doing that just to
catch a breath,
reconnect with, you know, real life. You know, maybe. But I never took to Nightmare on Elm Street immediately. It was the second part I liked. I love part 2, and I'm probably going to get a slagging for that. You know,
no,
part 2 is great.
It's a cult classic, and I think it's had. It's definitely, maybe we should do a wee one on part 2.
I'd love to do part. Yeah, it's not a fantastic movie. It's not. In fact, Nightmare 3 for me is probably out of the first 3. It's, you know, in terms of standards, I think Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 is really good.
It's
but
really
Part
strong.
2, somehow, I like the characters. I like the main character. I like the Mark, and I forget the girl's name. I really connected with them. I think that helped. I think with the other ones from the first movie, I think I was far too young to even relate to what sort of late teens were doing. You know, or things like that. It wasn't my world then. God knows when I saw part 2, but I felt more connected in terms of someone that's just moved house, they were unpacking, tidying their room, just simple things like that made me connect
kind
with
of awkward. He's an awkward teen.
Yes. You've got that little pop gun that he uses when he's dancing in his room, and she walks in just as he's popping the pop gun that he's using in a sort of phallic fashion, dancing to, I forget the name of the song now. It's a great song. But
we'll need to find that out.
Yeah, we'll find that out later. Part two was the one that probably sticks with me as a favourite, as a go-to. Nightmare on Elm Street I rewatched for the first time in preparation of this, and it's been a long time.
Really?
Yeah, it's been years before.
Wow.
It's the new restoration, the 4K that I watched, but before that I can't remember the last time I watched it.
See, I watched this film
every day. Got a t-shirt.
Twice a day. I've got the t-shirt.
Wearing the t-shirt. Yeah.
We've got it here in the. Well, we call it a studio. Let's call it a studio.
It is a studio. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. We're currently in our.
This is the first time we've recorded together.
Yes. So here we are
exciting.
in Beyond Scream HQ. That's what we could call it. We're at HQ.
Put a sign on the door. Yes.
Yes. And a severed head or something just hanging.
Yes, just a hand. But yes, we've got the Elm Street sign, and. The original, well, not the original quad, but a reproduction quad poster, and and the replica of the glove, which
And
is pretty. So we'll post this on social media.
Yeah.
But it's very.
super
I actually
cool.
did nick my fingers putting that into packaging to bring it along. It's not got sharp edges, but it has got edges, so you need to be careful. Yeah.
And let's hope that doesn't kind of resurrect.
It will just become a solo podcast. You're on your own.
Yeah.
If that happens, if that moves whilst we're recording, that's
Yeah.
I'm not hanging about.
Well, let's face it. If Freddie could have, he would have had a podcast because he is the chattiest of killers.
He is the chattiest of killers. I think that's.
I would listen to that podcast.
I would listen to it. In fact, did he not do? Was there not a Freddie album or something at one point?
There has been. He has rapped. He had. Now I want to say it was the Fat Boys, maybe. I might be
I have no
totally
idea.
wrong. In which case, I will retract that statement and put in the right. But there was definitely a rap, because I think that might have helped with the kind of dilution of the scare for me, because like you say, he became such a huge pop culture figure.
Yeah.
He was on MTV. There was
the kids show.
Yeah. You mentioned
I
need
thought I
to
was
find
making
this.
that up, but it's not. It's on some sort of Nickelodeon, and he's in character on a Nickelodeon kids show in the 80s.
I think that's just because
Odd.
Robert Englund's just an absolute babe of a man.
Well, I think he must be. It's,
And if he's listening, we think you're an absolute babe.
Yes.
Please hit us up. Listen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was apparently Freddie sleeping pills in Japan, which is
Really?
fantastic.
Wow.
There was a chat line where you could phone up and hear his kind of like little one-liners and things.
That rings a bell, actually.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I have to say, not after the first one. He was still this terrifying figure after the first
Yes.
one. And that's how Wes Craven wanted to keep him.
Yeah.
He wanted Freddy to be a one and done. For there not to be sequels and all the rest of
He
it.
made a lot of money, so.
Yes, they certainly did.
He made a lot of money, and I think Wes Craven jumped off with
57
it.
million.
With Bob Shea, wasn't it, that produced the films going forward?
And that's when New Line became the house that Freddie built. And
Yes.
if you've watched the Never Sleep Again documentary, which again I urge everybody to go and watch because it's fantastic.
I've not seen it.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Me
on
too.
Shudder.
Right.
And
Me
it
too.
gives, it's not just about the first film, it gives you insight into the whole franchise.
Okay.
And I think that Wes Craven kind of had to sign the story away to get it made. There was some problems, financial problems during the production, and I think he'd sort of had to sign the rights away to this perfect story in order to get it finished. Apparently there'd been times when production crew couldn't get paid.
Really?
And I think, maybe I didn't hear this right, but I'm sure that Bob Shea had to remortgage his house.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So really.
So this was the first film that they had produced. New Line had just been a distribution company at that point, and I think this was the first movie that they'd actually produced that they kind of stumped up the cash for.
Right.
And that's why it became the kind of studio that Freddie built.
Freddie Bills.
Yeah.
Wow. That's.
Yeah. So that's just a wee bit of background there for that. And
You've written about Nightmare on Elm Street and some of the themes, and I don't know if you want to talk about some of those just now, or so you've written about Nightmare on Elm Street and the themes that are involved in it. I have to say, for me, I really only ever looked at the movie in a sort of superficial aesthetic way. I didn't look at sort of deeper meaning behind things for a long time. So
So the little piece of writing that I did was called "The Fear of Adolescence and Parental Authority," and it was just a little critical analysis on Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's about the I think some of the, you know, the themes that come through from the movie are very much that Freddie being seen as a metaphor for the anxiety of adolescence, and being attacked when you're at your most vulnerable. And what is more vulnerable than your body, your personality, everything about you changing from child to teenager, and you are figuring out who you are. So there's that, the kind of internal struggle of growing up, I guess.
The ultimate safe space as well, you know, your bedroom, your bed, your dreams.
Yeah.
You know, they're all being penetrated by Freddie.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite, and these are intimate moments, you know, just times when it is your own personal space and safety is priority.
Yeah.
You should feel safe in your bed.
Absolutely. What's more intimate than your bed?
Yeah. And,
you know, how often do we tell children, especially teenagers, especially, you know, I've got a background in child development, so we know that as children sleep, their bodies are restoring, they're growing, their brains are developing. You know, this is the time that you are physically changing into the you know, the adult that you're going to become, and these children are being attacked before they even get to be who they are going to be. So that was definitely a kind of which is terrifying when you think about it. Like,
is that as far as we get in terms of the origin story of Freddy Krueger? Because we know that the parents basically acted as vigilantes against him, and that's the big dirty secret, isn't it? That no one's talking about this. They took matters into their own hands because of who Freddy was.
Yes, and initially he was meant to be a child molester, and in a kind of, you know, ironically, it was felt that child murderer was a bit more palatable for an audience. But there's lots of little signposts to the kind of person that he is without it being said. Nancy's mum calls him a filthy child murderer. Do you know, there's that.
Yes.
And yeah, the Freddie is the embodiment of the sins of the parents being acted out on
their children.
He's a vengeful spirit.
Yes.
Wow. He is, you know, as you said, they took it upon themselves because he had been cleared because of a technicality. And so there had obviously been a trial or and he was cleared. And we have, at that time in the 80s, there was a paranoia in America because of the McMartin trial, where children had accused the caregivers in their daycare centre of abuse, and parents were, you know, what is more terrifying than a parent dropping their child off to somebody in a, you know, an educational setting or a care setting, and actually they're completely entrusting them, but actually they are being harmed at the hands of the people that are meant to look after them. So there was this kind of tapping into the paranoia of the time, I guess. We've got the kind of the parents' extreme reaction to that. It is the most extreme reaction, and it's like that kind of I'll keep you safe by any means necessary. Do you know, regardless of what regardless of what my actions are, as long as I perceive that I'm keeping you safe, this is a justifiable action. And one of the things that I find so funny about this film is, how did they come about it? Do you know, was there like a coffee morning where they decided, let's do you know what we'll do? We'll kill him. That's what we'll do. Another slice of cake? Another cup of tea?
Parents Association meeting.
Good old PTA.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's a sinister element to that.
It is really dark.
And the fact it's not spoken about, and I think there's... I'm not saying it's... I mean, I don't think we know why the parents are behaving in the ways that we see on the screen. but they're damaged. You know, Tina's mum's, you know, clearly, and Nancy's mum, functioning alcoholic. And so it's I'm wondering, you know, is there you know, are they damaged by the events of you know, the pain that it keeps to keep a secret?
I think so.
Taking someone's life.
Yeah.
Irrespective of
that you
what
carry.
type of person that was, that, you know, taking someone's life. And I suppose it, you know, it sort of taps into, you know, we're very good at labelling people as monsters and to disassociate from them. But at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all capable of really horrific things. And,
absolutely.
But yeah, we're, you know, so this the idea that Freddy is a monster or a vengeful spirit, or, you know, again, sort of plays into this thing that we see in every headline whenever there's a horrific and you know, disturbing crime committed. You know, we see monster, or we see expressions of horror used in tabloid, usually tabloid sense, tabloid publications. So yeah, we have to disassociate because we can't be like him. You know, we're not of that same makeup. You know, reality is, you know, we can all be conditioned or made to behave in certain ways that perhaps ideally we wouldn't otherwise. You know,
and I think it's really interesting, just by you saying makeup, it kind of that automatically makes me think of the physical look of Freddy. Is that's the differentiation. So we've got Marge and we've got Tina's mum and we've got Glenn's parents and Nancy's dad, and, you know, on the surface it's almost quite Lynchian, isn't it? You know, it looks perfect. It looks okay, this beautiful
lovely house,
suburb that they live in. But we perceive, fence. Even. It's picket fence and roses up the trellis, until it's chopped down.
Yes, until it's taken down in a fit
locked.
Yes,
I love that bit.
Parents protecting their children by cutting roses down from a trellis
and locking their children in. I
bars
love,
in the window.
Yep, I love the bit where Marge is cradling her bottle of vodka and she's lying on the couch and Nancy's trying to get out and she's locked. She's
done her job.
Locked.
She doesn't have to do it. That's the other thing I really picked up when I rewatched it recently, was the fact that you know, she's done all the hard work and it's the spending the money, it's the physical work of putting bars in the window. I don't need to do any more now. I can go have a drink. I can go back to my beloved bottle of vodka. Because that's all I know, because if I drink enough of that, I don't have to think about what I did. And I kind of think as well, if she's that inebriated, she's probably not dreaming either. She's blackout maybe
drunk.
Protecting herself.
Because
you pass out, you don't sleep.
There's no.
When
it's
you're
not
drinking heavily. So that's some really interesting stuff. That if you just look beneath
just
what you're seeing,
pick at that wee bit more. And kind of going back to what we were saying earlier about, you know, Freddy is clearly looks monstrous, but he doesn't have a mask.
No.
You know, he doesn't. You know, he's not Michael. He's not Jason. He doesn't have the horror of him is in his face.
Yes.
But it's also the means to which he died, or the way he died. He was burned alive.
Burned alive to death. And there's that sort of, maybe, you know, you wonder in today's age would he be presented in that way. There's a lot of and rightly so, a lot of focus on the way that the disability
facial
is portrayed,
differences and
facial differences, you know, disfigurements, things like that. And I think, you know, recently there was a debate about, you know, the Bond villain should have scars anymore, because it's almost portraying people who do have physicalities that are different, that they're somehow going to be bad. You know, we don't want to. I think Doctor Who recently did Davros, the scene with Davros, and he's, for the first time ever, not in the Dalek casing. He's standing up, walking about, you know. They've changed the sort of perception of how we view,
Uh-huh.
or are trying to change.
Yeah.
But we've had that in cinema from
the
very beginning
Yeah.
of cinema.
Absolutely.
As much as maybe the way that women are portrayed in cinema. In fact, there was a great documentary done by BFI recently that portrayed sexual objectifying of women throughout, and it's there from the start, and it's still there today, and it gives you the examples of the movies, which as a man watching it, I didn't immediately pick up when I'm
Right.
watching within the films themselves. There's some that are obvious. If you look back on, I don't know, early Bond films, or you can see that women are treated and they're objectified. But there's films that I, and I still rate highly, but yeah, I was quite shocked. I thought, oh my God, they could have done that so differently. They didn't have to place her in a certain scene in a certain way, or in a certain state of undress. That it was really quite an eye-opening thing. So I think that is another problem, that's inherent in cinema that we've kind of become used to.
Yeah.
Objectifying women, and in terms of people with disfigurements or disabilities are somehow
othered.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
And for some reason as well, Marge keeps the glove.
Yeah, why now that we don't know why.
We don't know why. Maybe it was to cover up the guilt, and not the guilt, but as in her guilt of the crime, as in she's hidden his
it's
glove.
quite a thing to keep to, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really.
And even when
It's not very practical either.
it's not. No, I mean that furnace is not going to be cost efficient, is
no.
it? If it's
Not
got
at
that in it.
I learned actually the furnace scenes, not the ones, not in the house. I think that was on soundstage, but the boiler room and Tina's dream was done in an old prison in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
It was Lincoln Heights, and it has been used in several films. And Wes Craven later went back and used it in his film Shocker. As well, I didn't realise that. It's quite a prominent film location for a while. It's not now, it's been condemned. I think there's asbestos, and I think it's still standing. But yeah, there's certain areas that they can't use now because of dangers of asbestos and decline in the building structure. But
And was that used for Nancy's kind of first encounter with Freddie as well? I would imagine it was.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I know from Tina's sequence she is in a large facility. You can see that. Trying to remember Nancy's dream is
when Nancy falls asleep in class,
yes,
and she follows Tina's body downwards to the
absolutely
the kind of industrial space, and there's a little bit to be said there as well about Freddie being, the kind of the worker that we maybe don't see. The kind of manual work. He was the janitor. Again, kind of the beautiful kind of Americana that they live in. There's people who do these jobs that are invisible.
Underground.
Yeah, they're underground, and yeah, there's maybe a wee bit around that. I'm sure there'll be people who have written lots about this in a much more articulate way than I am, than I'm saying now. But yes, there's Nancy's family and Glenn's family are very obviously a kind of nice middle class family. I mean, yeah, we know that there's bits and bobs bubbling under the surface.
Her dad's a very busy police officer.
He is.
I mean, he's in every horror movie.
Yes,
As
John
Lieutenant.
Saxon.
John Saxon.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about him. I was watching that again. He's a little bit more. To begin with, he's very distant. He doesn't listen to Nancy at all.
No, but he loves her.
He loves her. I think you get that impression. Whereas the mother does.
And she is mother.
Yeah.
She calls Marge mother.
Yes.
But she calls John Saxon daddy, which I get. I would call him daddy as well. I think.
That. Yeah, no, that's
a handsome
interesting. Yes. So John Saxon's turned in again as a cop who was in Black Christmas.
Yes.
As well. Yes. So But yeah, there was that sort of, and then there seems to be on Glenn's death, when it becomes blatantly obvious that something, not even within the realms of reality, has happened. That he seems to appreciate that his daughter's been right all along.
Yeah.
You know, he's not been listening. He's been that absent parent, even though he's been the loving parent.
Yes.
He's still been absent.
He's not. He
Excuse me.
doesn't give Nancy any kind of agency. She's dismissed by everybody.
Yeah.
You know, when she goes to the police station after kind of having that glimpse into what's going to happen to Rod, she goes to the police station and she's I mean, Nancy is amazing, and we'll get on to that, but you know, she's so forthright and says to, I think it's Garcia, his name is, she's, you know, she calls him by his surname, and she's like, you know, I need to see him now, Garcia, or something like that, and he's like, oh my god, I took the night shift to get peace type thing. But she's just she has so much kind of courage in her conviction. She will not.
It's a strong female character.
Yeah, she's amazing. But you're absolutely right. He's kind of just kind of, it's all right, baby, I'll sort it. Do you know, it's very much that. And even after Glenn dies, and she speaks to him on the phone, and she says, he's dead, isn't he? And he says, yeah, I think so, it looks that way. And she says, I know what I need to do, or I know who did this. And he, even then, he's listening to her, but it's not to kind of acknowledge her. He just, I think he says something along the lines of, just tell me who did it, baby, and I'll go catch them. You know, daddy's a policeman. Daddy'll sort it, type thing. But he doesn't give her place or her.
No, doesn't recognise the strength that she has, which she definitely has, because she then tricks Freddie into coming into the real world instead of the dream world. Yeah,
and she proper Kevin McAllister's him.
Absolutely. It predates Home Alone by 5-6 years.
Yes, and I really want the anti-personnel and booby traps book. I need to find that. I need that in my life, I think.
We're securing a copy. Yeah.
Every house should have one, I think.
Absolutely. When Freddie first attacks Nancy, there's just no respect for, you know, how I don't want to say delicate, that's not the right word, but you know, she's a fragile young girl, and he's pulling her up by the neck of her pyjamas. You really, you know, it's like a sort of physical attack that sadly, you know, men feel empowered to do, you know,
And he's not a big guy, Freddie. I think I think that's important to kind of discuss as well, is that Robert Englund is not a tall guy. Again, he's not a Freddie. He's not a Freddie. He is a Freddie.
He is a Freddie, yes.
He's not a Jason. He doesn't look 7 foot. You know, he's not as tall as he is wide, or he doesn't have the physicality that, you know, Leatherface has, or Michael Myers. He doesn't have that kind of not sneaking. He doesn't have that kind of.
It's interesting. He has to construct a glove to become part of him as a weapon. It's, you know, if maybe that's some insight into how he views himself. You know, that he isn't this empowered man that he wants to be, but he constructs something that becomes actually a physical part of him.
And Robert Englund described when he put it on was that it weighed him down. So Freddie has a very kind of specific silhouette, if you like. He must be his right hand side, I would imagine. I think so, it is the shoulders dropped.
So that affects his actual physical gait.
His gait and his stance and the way he moves. You know, if you watch him move, he's not slick. He's not a kind of, you know.
Michael Myers is very slow. Walks in a straight line. He's got a very definite destination. You know, Freddy's all over the place visually.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
He comes out of anywhere.
Yeah, and that's... we'll probably speak about this as well. That is the kind of the power and the terror of the dream logic, is that he can be anywhere.
And in any form.
Yes,
any person. I think we explore that in the sequence. He's often someone else.
Yes.
We see the bus driver in part 2, and it's it's a bus driver, a school bus driver, but clearly as the bus journey is going on, it's Freddy that's behind the wheel.
Yes.
He becomes so that you're right, that dream logic.
And we get a wee hint of that when Nancy runs out the classroom and she bumps into the kind of, I have like the hall monitor.
The prefect.
The prefect.
Yeah.
Where's your pass?
Yeah, where's your pass to go down this hallway?
And then Nancy gives the best, or one of the best lines, screw your pass. And then the next thing, we see the stripe. Well, no, she was in the stripes anyway.
Yeah, she's in the stripes.
But she gives the kind of the wave, and it's the sneer of no running in the hallway.
And it's not Robert Englund. It is the actress.
It is that girl.
At that point, imitating his
behaviour,
facial expressions.
We've got the hint of him. And that's
interesting.
And that's kind of, that must be Nancy's kind of first clue that she's in a dream, maybe, because we noticed there's things like there's leaves in the hallway.
That's right.
And because we don't, up until that point, maybe this is a good point to speak about the dream logic actually, it's never signalled when we're in a dream. It's never signalled at all, in the way that it's traditionally done in other films, where maybe a head goes onto a pillow, that kind of thing.
You've got a signal that someone's going to sleep.
Yes, it's not automatically signalled. We might have a character close their eyes just for that nanosecond longer than is kind of typical, I guess. But it's the little clues in the background, like the young boy at the top of the class, reciting Shakespeare.
Daryl Hannah's brother.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And that becomes terrifying because it's just not quite right. It's that kind of, again, that Lynch thing, or like Lynch, in that it looks normal,
yes,
but actually just lean in a wee bit closer and why his eyes looking like that? Why is he whispering? That's what signals us to it being the dream, and not kind of Nancy's head, kind of bobbing as she falls asleep in class type thing.
There's no visual cue for it at all.
No, and that's part of Wes Craven's genius, I guess, is that's where his real skill and strength as a filmmaker comes in. I'm trying to think of another example.
I should say, Wes Craven, I hugely admire. Just Nightmare on Elm Street, Hills of Eyes, for even through to the 90s, he did films like Shocker. Fantastic horror director, and absolutely has created characters that are lasting, but he doesn't stand within the realms of, for me, he's not the go-to horror director for me. And the other thing is some of his tonal touches are slightly off for me.
Hit the mark.
It's comedic tones, especially in his early work, Last House on the Left, which is basically a remake of Ingmar Bergman's Virgin Spring, dealing with really serious, heavy stuff, rape. He remakes it in a very exploitative way, very visual and explicit way, and then intercuts a story about two bumbling cops, and the music is even is like that sort of bumbling sitcom comedic music score, and it's just really didn't sit well with me.
It's just too jarring.
Too jarring for me, and I never really never get that tone. And I appreciate that's me, and for others, people will approach these films with high regard, but I've always found them a bit tricky to get my head around, actually. I don't know why, but he absolutely, deserves to be recognised for the work that he did. He's done fantastic.
Yeah,
Sadly,
and there's
not with us anymore. He's
no.
For many years now has passed away, but passed away a long time ago now. But no, he's absolutely made an impact.
And you can see that in the kind of the final few scenes of Nightmare, when we have the kind of the Home Alone-esque sequence. You know, the hammer drops down and hits him in the in the tummy, and he's and it's that kind of, and then there's an explosion and he goes flying over the staircase or the banister or whatever. So there is that. If you that, and that, I must admit that the kind of I love the thinking behind it. I love that Nancy saves herself. I love that she has. Yeah. She's so ballsy and gutsy that she does that. But I do feel that it kind of loses. Just momentarily, it kind of loses its edge when it's the kind of the Home Alone stuff. But maybe because I saw Home Alone first, probably. And then
it's I think we didn't have Home Alone to compare it to. Which obviously there certainly is there's iterations of it. I'm not sure they're deliberate iterations from Home Alone's side of things, but I mean it's it's very much it's booby trap after booby trap, and but yeah, I mean she's the strongest character in that film.
She's amazing.
And she's and physically, her physicality, there is a delicacy about her in terms of, vulnerability and things like that, strength, that determination that she has, that she's not going to be got at by this person. And it's incredible.
And she looks young. I think Tina looks slightly older, and obviously Tina's kind of coded in the sense of we hear her having incredibly loud sex. We think she looks older, whereas Nancy looks very young and very soft, and she's put in baby colours, baby pink.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
and her hair is very sweet. It's kind of put back like a little girl's would be.
Amazing eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
she's blue,
such a babe.
Blue eyes.
Such a babe. And and Glenn's the same. Glenn is in his little. I mean.
Tank top. Has he got a tank top, Glenn?
Well, at one point he's very preppy. He's got a tank top and a polo shirt or a shirt. And I mean, we need to devote a podcast just to his crop top.
He's definitely not been led by Tina in anything. Tina's a whole new wave for Glenn. He's sadly not to discover things beyond that. But yeah, it is interesting how much it does land on her at the end. To take Freddie out. Literally take him out of.
Yeah, and she's able to pull him out, and again, that is just so nothing.
It's quite a neat idea, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah, I
mean, don't think there's anything in horror that's approached that.
No.
In terms of having someone that can harm you from another reality and then being brought into your reality makes him vulnerable.
Yeah,
And I think it's a really cool idea.
I love that bit where she pulls it. The scene where she says, "Why can't I just not dream?" And the doctor in the sleep clinic says, "No, we all have to dream. Otherwise we'd go loopy," type thing. It's our body's way of making sense of things. And then we don't even see that fight. We don't see her grappling with him. All we see is her being woken up by the doctors and her mum, and her pulling out the hat. And the look on all their faces is they're so shocked because it's disbelief, because they just put her to bed. They just put her to bed with nothing under the covers with her.
Foreshadowing there, isn't it? The fact that she's got his hat. Eventually she's going to get him. To come into this
and
world.
That's a huge kind of. That's such a kind of milestone, if you like, in the story of that's when she realizes I can be
to do
through something I do. I'm going to be able to beat him.
Yeah.
And that's just so, I mean, there's certainly not in the early 80s. Our final girls were all fantastic and kind of had little hints at being a bit more resourceful and all the rest of it. But a lot of the time, there was some kind of intervention. Either it was, you know, Dr. Loomis or...
Yes.
It's Dr. Loomis, or it was the truck driver in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, the girls had...
They needed to reach out to someone.
There was an external kind of person came in, a third party came
had
in.
to go to in order to survive.
Yeah.
Whereas Nancy
lone, does it herself.
Lone Ranger.
Yeah, and she has to, because everybody around her fails her.
Yeah.
You know, she's there because the people around her have been ineffective, either through neglect or not listening to her, or just being really crap. Like Glenn, when she says to him, "Wake me up if I look up," you know, if it looks like something's going wrong, wake me up, and he falls asleep.
Really shit at staying awake, isn't he? He's, I mean, and ultimately leads to his, you know, demise. But
yeah, he deserved that.
Absolutely.
That's what you get.
Have a bloody cup of coffee, man. You know?
Where's his little coffee machine under his bed, like your Nancy's? She was, but yeah, Glenn is. I heard fantastic Anna Bogutskaya on her podcast, the Final Girls podcast, talk about him as being like a little bit of a himbo. He's just there to look pretty and eat.
He does look, I mean, he's incredibly, and I think he was 21. He's older than what he's playing.
Yeah,
He is, he's incredibly handsome.
Yeah. And
well, he is, I mean, Johnny Depp
he was a beautiful man, yeah.
So if you have a nightmare, for instance, like falling, right?
Right?
Well, instead of screaming and getting all nuts, you say, okay, I'm gonna make up my mind that I fall into a magic world.
So reading about this was Wes Craven had come over articles in the 70s which would place it around the tail end of Vietnam, in that there was a series of deaths in Southeast Asia affecting teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might be wrong in saying this, but specifically males between 18 and 25-year-old.
So young
males and refugees as well. So I don't think the phenomenon has ever been explained. I think it's geographical. It hasn't happened elsewhere other than Southeast Asia. They don't really know why, but certainly it seemed to be specific to refugees who were displaced during Vietnam.
Wow.
Or in the aftermath of Vietnam. And they were having horrific dreams, to the point that they were having real physical symptoms after having the nightmares, to the point that they were trying to stay alive. They were frightened of dying. They were inducing themselves with high doses of caffeine just to try and not sleep, and yeah, they passed away without really much in the way of explanation.
Which is terrifying.
It is scary, because you go to sleep, you do expect to wake up.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of, you know, I don't know if it's a getting older thing as well, but you know, when you go to sleep, sometimes you kind of think, what if it's me? What if I don't wake up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had that thought before, and it's quite frightening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrifying.
There's something quite unsettling about just going to sleep, which is, or can be unsettling about sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't want to have nightmares, or we're scared that we're not going to wake up.
Yeah. And it's that vulnerability, isn't it? It's that complete vulnerability.
Yeah.
Of you have to be you have to kind of surrender to sleep.
Yes, you're not going to get away from that. It has to happen.
No, and you can understand why sleep deprivation is used as a torture device. I mean, my youngest just didn't sleep for like the first 7 years of her life, and you are floating through your day.
Yeah,
you're not quite. You know, you're there. You're keeping everybody safe and alive and everything else, and you're functioning, kind of inverted commas, but there's still that kind of haze.
Yeah.
Of tiredness. It's just constantly over you. And I'd read about Nancy, I can't remember where I read it, where she would, because she hadn't slept for, is it 7 days?
Yes.
I think Glenn asks her, when did you sleep?
Yeah.
Or when did you last sleep? And she says, oh, it's like a week or something. And apparently she would be going into, her body would be going into micro naps.
Okay.
At that point. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that. But just
But
that sleep
sustaining,
deprivation, your body just puts you into it. So the danger of Freddie is that it could be one of those micro naps that he manages to
jump in and get her.
Yeah.
He certainly is quick enough to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's self-deprivation causing hallucinations as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's lots of things we can look at or to talk about, potentially about, you know, the thematics around, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street and how it, you know, just how we approach our sleeping patterns and how we deal with nightmares or dreams, what we make of them, how much they impact our day-to-day life. You know, there's lots and lots of different current, present things that mean things to the audiences that are watching. I think that's why it's still relevant, very relevant.
Yeah.
Apart from being a huge cultural phenomenon, you know, it's still very effective. I enjoyed seeing it again.
Yeah,
you know.
it is. It's just I think it's probably, for me, it's near to perfect. But then I say that about all the films that I love.
I say that as well about every film that I really, really enjoy. But,
and the look of Freddie is, I'm just thinking, now I love a stripe. I am a stripe obsessive, but the red and the green together are the two colours that are the most difficult for the human eye to see together.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, was that intentional then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything with Wes Craven, he was an academic, so he
I remember now. Yes,
taught English. Sorry, I keep talking over you. He taught English at college level.
Right.
And I think he was published. I think he had kind of writings that were published. And the look for Freddie, so he knew that those two colours jarred, but the inspiration was for Freddie was a man that looked at him from the street up into his bedroom. He looked out his bedroom window one night and a man was standing in the street and was staring at him. Now this
creepy.
guy was obviously just kind of like, oh, I'm getting stared at, so I'm going to mess with this wee guy. But he kept staring at him. I'll need to double check if he had
need to move out.
something.
I wouldn't stay. I'd immediately pack my bags. That would give me the willies. That would just absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine.
I hate windows at night. I always have. As soon as it's dark, get things. Get the curtains drawn, the blinds down.
That's it. I don't want to know what's out there. If I don't see it, it's not there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Marge.
Yeah.
But there's he was also, his parents were going through a divorce at that time, so he had his own kind of internal trauma and distress and things going on. So yeah, the origin story between that man having such a terrifying impact on him, and then reading about the kind of sudden adult death type things. Just kind of, he used all that to make this
fantastic,
terrifying story.
Even more appreciation that I didn't have before. Now,
You could just see cuts happening all at once.
They had a budget. I think the budget was $1 million. $1.1 million the budget was.
Wow, that's not a lot of money for.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
And all their
1.1
practical
million.
effects. Those are all practical effects, apart from the shitty glitter. The glitter when Nancy, we've not even spoken about Freddie's death. When Nancy says, "You're nothing, you're shit," and I take back all my power, which is like,
oh yes,
he just turns into a pile of glitter.
Aye.
And that's the only kind of ropey effect, I think.
You know, I mean, it's all very, and I think I said earlier, I mean, even today, Tina's death is still up there, and yeah, I mean, I've read about the rotating set, and they'd even, I don't know how they manufactured it, but even the wall coming in.
How have we not spoken about that?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean, that's the first time you.
Yeah.
Is that the first time you see Freddy? No. Or you get glimpses of him.
We get a
but
glimpse
you
of
get
him.
his face. You can make out. You can even make out his burn scars.
Yes.
Through this wall that he's impressing in towards.
It looks like lycra almost, doesn't it? It's like
yes, I think it was. I think they framed a load of lycra or spandex or something and
leggings
and framed it within the wall or within that. I don't know if it was set or
that
if it was
is
location.
it is so creepy because even now, when you're lying in your bed just before you fall asleep, the thought of that kind of
just
not
being
over
aware
your
of
head,
because you wouldn't see that.
Yeah, and she doesn't see it, but she senses something's off.
There's a little knock.
Yeah.
So she knows that something's come in.
And she
hangs.
hangs.
That natural sense that something's entered her world. Because she knocks to physically make sure that the walls.
Yes. And then she hangs the crucifix back up.
Yes, because he
Whereas
knocks that
Tina
off.
sleeps with it as her protective
I hadn't
thing.
picked up on that before, no.
Yeah, she sleeps with it once she has the nightmare, and she realises that her Goonies all.
Yeah, I mean that her nightgown being slashed is the exact area where she's attacked physically.
Yeah, it's that foreshadowing.
It's foreshadowing of what happens to her. I think the next night or the
following, so that happens that night. It cuts to the school scene, and they chat about, and Nancy actually says, "Sounds like a real boogeyman."
Still in the room with me. Sounds like a real boogeyman. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Yes.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. So he's in. He's in their lives already.
And that's quite because that's I think the school shot. They're arriving. The girls are outside. It's a high school they're going to.
Yeah, they come out.
There's young
Glenn's
girls skipping.
Yes. So actually, is that part of the dreamscape?
That's not real. That's not reality. That's the dream within their world. And again, you talk about, and you very rightly so. You said it's not signalled. The dream when people enter dreams into the film, it's not signalled.
Yeah.
It is. It's fantastic. It's just one of and it's I think now I have more appreciation of Nightmare 1 than I've ever had before, just by retrospectively placing it in its time, as well as actually appreciating just everything that you see on screen. Because you don't, I didn't pick up on everything that you've mentioned. Within the slight, the wrongness of how someone looks.
Yeah.
Is that's new for me. You talk about I mentioned it was Daryl Hannah's brother. It's he's reading, and you're saying something I've not picked that up before.
Yeah, and Lynn Shay is Bob Shay's sister.
Ah, right.
So
okay.
Lynn Shay of
she's the
Conjuring. Is it no? Yeah,
she's a teacher, isn't she?
She's a teacher.
Right. Okay.
Is it The Conjuring? No. What one is it? It is Insidious. Sorry, she is the kind of psychic in Insidious.
Right.
Who goes to help Patrick Wilson, and the kind of Darth Maul looking demon.
Right. I did not know that.
Yeah. That's her. She's in so much horror, actually. Lots and lots of horror. Yeah, she is the teacher
in the classroom that Nancy falls asleep. The other thing, I'm a massive film music lover, and Charles Bernstein,
it's a great
composer of Nightmare on Elm Street, just creates the most recognisable. I mean, I know straight when I hear those opening bars, and I'm not going to sing them or
no, on you go.
But these opening bars of the theme tune, you know exactly it's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Absolutely.
And it's another one of these theme tunes that have become iconic in terms of you understand what it is the minute you hear the opening sounds at Halloween. You know, that's very, you know, that's.
I think we should do an episode on horror
music.
Horror music,
yeah,
theme tunes.
Yeah,
it's not theme tunes.
But there is. It's almost like a
scores.
theme tune because you start to associate these themes, Halloween with Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Charles Bernstein's Nightmare on Elm Street score. It's identifiable to the character.
Yes.
Which is that's a step closer than, you know, a standard score to a film.
Yes.
You know, you're relating it to a character. It becomes a character theme.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a great score. And he did a couple of other horrors, The Entity, and I forget now. He did a couple. The Entity was another one that he did. So as we wrap up, we should probably mention the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Thoughts, Emma?
It's of its time, isn't it? It's you know, we know it's a stinger. We get the stinger. We close one scene, Nancy closing the door on Freddy when she's vanquished him, and as she closes that door, the front door of 1428 Elm Street opens, and we have this beautiful whitewashed perfect morning. A perfect day. Yep. The three friends are waiting for her in the car, and Marge tells Nancy she doesn't feel like drinking anymore. I'm just going to give that up. Don't need to do that anymore.
No, baby, I'm gonna stop drinking. I just don't feel like it anymore.
And Nancy gets in the car. The stripy hood comes up, the doors lock, and the 4 teens quickly realise actually the nightmare isn't over, and the blow up figure of Marge is grabbed through that tiny little
definitely not a stunt double. It's yes, blow up doll through a tiny window.
Yeah.
Which again maybe adds to surrealism of dreams, isn't it? That, you know, things can be within spaces that aren't in the right size, and you know, so it maybe ties into that logic of dreaming. I think it's a big point in films where there was that sting in the tail. There was always something that had to be, I suppose mostly still exists within horror, you get something as a bit of a payoff or as a twist completely. So it's
or for the next one,
yeah, which there were many.
Yep.
There were 8 altogether,
yes,
including the remake.
We've got the remake, yes.
Which I have never seen the remake.
Never
seen the remake.
I think we should maybe do a compare and contrast then.
All right, okay.
Because it is it's of its time for sure. It's that kind of that dark Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Everything's greys and mustard. Yep.
Everything was being remade at that time. Yeah.
But Jackie Earle Haley is really good as Freddy.
Right.
That's you know, there's not much that you can sort of say positively about it other than him. He did well, and he was menacing, but he was really, really seedy. You know, the stuff that was alluded to nice and subtly by Wes Craven is like out there. He is basically saying what he's going to do to her when he catches her. So yeah, but that's that one. But it might be worth. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
I'll maybe come back to that one.
But yeah, it's 8 films. We have the Freddy and Jason crossover.
Oh yeah, I forgot the combo one. Yeah, that was Freddy versus Now. That wasn't set in any any particular world, was it?
No,
really, it was
just
no continuity with.
No, it was completely out of the Freddy cinematic universe.
Yeah.
The FCU.
I remember I saw that when it came out. I remember liking it.
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought
liked
it was okay.
it.
I can't remember anything about it now.
There's a couple of really, really like awful bits. There's some proper cheesy stuff. I quite like when they go back to Camp Crystal Lake and, you know,
yes,
Freddy has to bring
mix it up and
Jason back to terrify the kids so that he can start to come into their dreams.
Teamwork.
Yeah,
Right.
teamwork
Right.
makes the dream work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember they were fighting on the pier or something.
Yes,
in Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
I can't really recall too much about it, but I remember seeing it. What was it? It's like 20 years ago now,
Yeah,
isn't it? 21, 22 years.
It'll definitely be something like that. And it's kind of been kind of cancelled because there's a couple of really inappropriate comments. There's a kind of racial comment, and then there's a homophobic slur,
Right.
which, you know, when you look at things through the lens of today, you just think,
Doesn't work.
there's just no need for it at all. So it's had a wee bit of kind of analysis done there. So it's I think it's kind of coming under the kind of almost the bro horror-y type thing.
Yeah, that's it. And then Jason X, we're getting on to Jason X. Is there Jason X?
There is, where he's in space.
I've never seen that.
And there's things like, is there not a liquid nitrogen death or something like that?
idea.
I think there is.
I don't think I
something
ever
like that.
sat down to that at all, actually.
I think.
Friday 13 films are a bit hit and miss for me as well. We're getting off topic.
That's all right.
We're on Nightmare on Elm Street.
We're on Nightmare on Elm Street. We're on Elm Street.
Yeah, back on Elm Street. Yeah, so I kind of, it was a nice sting in the tail, I guess, for the ending. I don't mind it.
And do you think that the ending tells us that Nancy has defeated him, or what's your take from
I think
it?
no, I think she hasn't. I think it's hard to if she's even dreaming it.
Exactly,
she
yeah.
hasn't defeated it. The nightmare continues, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then she disappears for a couple of films and comes back.
And becomes a dream warrior.
And Dream Warriors, yeah.
And she still has her little stripe of white
I love
hair,
that.
which is just so cool.
It's great,
so
yeah.
cool.
And then it's it was Warriors. Dream Warriors, like it's got a soundtrack by Dokken for a start, which is just magnificent. It's a bit like a Goonies.
Yes.
I enjoy Goonies films like Monster Squad and the Goonies, obviously, as well.
I wonder if the Duster brothers who did Stranger Things, I wonder if they have if they've been influenced by it, because the bit in when Taryn has her dream transformation and she's really punk and goes on about being, in my dream I'm bad and beautiful, or whatever it is, and then they had 11 kind of go through a little phase of being
transition.
kind of punky and
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of elements of 80s films that come through Stranger Things that you can see quite obviously, and then more subtle. I wouldn't surprise me at all if they were riffing.
Look at the source material. It's just so good.
Great material.
So good. I think we have to do a wee.
Will we do more?
I think we should.
I've never. I have to say it's not been since the 90s that I've seen part 4, 5, 6.
No.
I have no memory of those films at all. It was like the Dream Child, and then there's the Dream. What was it?
Dream Master.
The Dream Master or something. And then Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which I still have the 3D glasses of. They were handed out at cinemas. I was too young to see it at the cinema, but I managed to grab a couple of 3D Freddy's Dead glasses.
That's awesome.
So I've still got somewhere.
Get a picture up on
Insta. I need to find it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be in a box somewhere in the attic.
And then we had Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So his first kind of foray into his metaverse.
Yes, and probably the first of the sort of meta films.
Yeah, because if there was no New Nightmare, there'd be no Scream.
No.
There'd be no Cabin in the Woods.
It's true.
None of that
That's
stuff.
very true.
And he's, bless him, he wasn't much of an actor. I went to the cinema to see that.
Did you?
Yeah.
That
Robin
must
Cinema
have
in
been the first
Dunfermline.
18. Robin Cinema, and I love
It was
Robin
gorgeous.
Cinema.
Listeners, it was a proper cinema.
Yeah, it's very sadly missed.
It is.
It's
it
nothing
is.
but a skeletal shell on the
Yeah.
high street now, which is a shame.
Maybe we should buy it. Let's
you know,
pull
if
our
I had the
pocket
money
money.
to buy that place, that would be done up back into a cinema, because they ripped it out and made it into
Yeah.
some nightclub.
It became a sports bar, and then I think it became a pole bar.
A special bar. After
Yeah.
that. Which
And
didn't
then
go
it
down well with local authorities, I remember.
And then it became an 80s tribute. So maybe it's come full
Yes,
circle
that's
then.
right. It was an 80s tribute after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a Club Tropicana.
Club Tropicana, that's right.
All sticky floors and
Oh, I was never in it. I
Yazoo.
don't think. I think it was too old by that point. But yeah, no, I like the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it sets up for a sequel, which is kind of makes me think more that it is Nancy's dream, because there is no follow up to. And not that films need to do it; they don't need to explain everything to us, but we don't really get what happened in those final moments.
No. And I think what's really sad is that if this is Nancy's dream, if she is perpetually going to be fighting Freddy in her dreams, or then what's really sad is she dreams of Marge being this present, connected mum, and all her friends are still with her, and I think that's just so sad.
There's a bittersweet element there, isn't there? Which is bitter, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no, it is sad. There's a poignancy there that's.
Because she is just a young girl.
Yeah.
She's still young, and needed more than what she got from them, for sure. And we end, of course, on the jump rope, singing, and the two girls.
Great melody. It's a melody, nursery rhyme. What do we call these things? Nursery rhyme.
Nightmare fuel.
Nightmare fuel. That's good. I like that. Yep.
Nightmare fuel and nightmare fodder. And it is. It we know that the car goes off to God knows where.
Yeah.
At the control of Freddy or whatever.
Which is interesting, because the next time we see Freddy, he's driving the school bus. So
man.
maybe Freddy learned to drive and went off and did buses and taxis and
come into an
hijacks.
Uber near you, people. Yeah, I wonder if there's any. I bet some very clever academic has done some kind of analysis about Freddy and his modes of transportation. Because does he not turn into a motorbike in one of the films?
I think I'm the first person to mention that. That's mine.
Yeah,
that's my material.
We're putting a trademark on that, people.
No. Freddy driving school.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Yes, so that's where we end. We end on those spooky little girls, and with the horrible feeling that actually he's not a pile of glitter.
No.
Never to return. He's
always there.
He's there, and we can't sleep safely ever again.
No.
We can never sleep again. 9-10, never sleep again. And that's how it ends.
Great ending.
So it is a good ending, apart from the blow up doll. But
yeah, well, we can forgive that.
We can forgive that, and I think that's the
it was
power
a great
of
film.
it.
Yeah, let it go.
Yeah, exactly. We just need to let it go. We just need to deflate that doll.
Deflate it.
Yeah. Put a pin in it and let that go. And that's it. It sets up a franchise that, as you say, 8 films, countless pop culture references.
Yeah, I mean merchandise. Even today, buy Freddy figure and Freddy glove and
Freddy pajamas.
Freddy pajamas.
If anybody wanted to buy me the Freddy pajamas, I will model them on Instagram. Yeah. I do want Freddy pajamas though, and you can get Freddy wrapping paper.
Oh,
that's really, really cool. And I put out a big hint to Mr. Arneil at Christmas time,
yes,
and it didn't come to anything.
Right, well,
but it's red and green.
Make sure he listens to this podcast.
I will.
Next Christmas, you'll be sorted.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's really made me think a lot more about you've had a lot of insight into Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's something I think I mentioned earlier. I've only seen on a kind of superficial kind of level, really, as a enjoyable horror film, but it has got deeper themes and meanings that you've very well brought out and food for thought.
Yeah. So, guys, if there's anything that you have insight into Nightmare, please. You know what to do. You know all our contact details. They're on socials. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your memories of this film. When did you first see it? Do you have the scary origin stories that we have?
Yes, that'd be good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, and meanwhile, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.